Hey all, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie. Today I'm going to be doing my monthly wrap up. This is going to be from August 13th through today, which is September 12th, and during that time I read 18 books. So let's go ahead and get started. Like last month, I'm going to go ahead and just go in order that I read them, and I'm going to start off with a 5-star read. The first book that I have to talk about is Disgrace. This is by Brittany C. Cherry. This is about Jackson and Grace, and I freaking love this book so much. So it is based in a small town, and it is about a girl who marries her high school sweetheart, and they think they have this perfect life together. She is the preacher's daughter. And so they move away and they're living their life, but unfortunately, she has had multiple miscarriages. This is kind of all talked about at the very, very beginning of this book, so I don't think I'm really giving away much. And her husband has been unfaithful, and not only has he been unfaithful, but he's the one who leaves her, and she's been separated from him for a while now, and he comes back and has sold their home, and so she's having to move in with her family back to this small town where there's gossip, and of course, being the preacher's daughter, she's going to be under the most scrutiny possible. She is desperate for her husband to love her again, and she is wanting their marriage to work. When she moves to this small town, the very first day, something terrible goes on and happens. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but trigger warnings for cheating. And it's really quite sad. I have never felt so stabby over characters. Like, I literally wanted to murder a couple of characters in this book. Like, there was some terrible people in this small town. Of course, because it is a small town romance, you're going to have a ton of gossip. This book was just really, really good. Jackson is kind of the town bad boy. He's known as the bad seed, the guy who gets drunk and high. His father is a drunk, and they strike up a relationship for the summer, and things build and escalate. I love Jackson. I thought he was the absolute best hero you could possibly imagine. I adored him. I really, really enjoyed this book. It's going to frustrate you, but it is so worth the ride. The next book I have to talk about is going to be Dark Notes. This is by Pam Godwin. I gave this 3.5 stars. This is about Emmerich and Ivory. It is a student-teacher romance. It does have some BDSM aspects to this book. It is definitely a dark romance. So I wasn't sure how I felt about this book for the longest time. And even now, there's parts that I loved and parts that I really just did not love. So Emmerich is a piano teacher for the very gifted. This is a musical school, not just like a regular high school. And Ivory is basically the only poor person in this entire school. Her father paid for her to attend this school right before he passed away, and her mother and her brother have resented her ever since then because they are living in poverty while she gets to go to this posh music school. And her brother is physically abusive. He is a drunk. Her mother is very absent and is also into drugs and whatnot. She's basically raising herself, and there are bad characters that come into her house and abuse and sexually assault her. There is a lot of rape scenes. There is a lot of just really bad situations that she gets put in by multiple men, so be warned on that. Emmerich is not the best teacher, in my opinion. He wasn't the best hero. In fact, I wasn't sure how I felt about him at all until like 285 pages into this book. After that point, things kind of started to change around for me, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. But I almost felt like for the first half of this book that the hero was actually doing her more harm than good, in my opinion. And I mean, I love asshole heroes. Everybody knows this. I've said this a million times, but this just kind of took it a little too far for me. I really enjoyed some aspects of this book. After page 285, it did start to get better, but it still was only a 3.5 star read for me. The next book I have to talk about is actually a series. I read them pretty much back to back, and that is This Man by Jodi Ellen Malpass. I gave This Man 3.5 stars. I gave the second book, Beneath This Man, 2.5 stars. And then I gave This Man Confessed 4 stars, which is the third and final book in this trilogy. So this is kind of a billionaire romance similar to 50 Shades and the Crossfire series, I think is the name of it, by Sylvia Day. However, I enjoyed the Crossfire series more than I enjoyed this book. Jessie, first of all, this book is British, so there's a lot of British slang and terms in it. Jessie is Lord of the Manor. Ava, who is our heroine, thinks that this is a posh hotel. It turns out to be a sex club. Ava is an interior designer. Jessie hires Ava to come in and decorate 10 rooms. And as soon as she sees him, she is struck speechless. He is the most gorgeous man that she's ever met. That kind of trope. He becomes incredibly possessive and controlling. Like, the second that she sees him, she knows that this man could break her heart. And she just got out of a serious relationship. She's not really wanting to get in one. So she's running away from him. Basically, throughout the entire first book, it's just her running away from him and him chasing her. And he becomes kind of stalkerish and controlling and possessive. They quickly form a relationship, and she ends up moving in by the end of this first book. Things that I really didn't like is that, number one, he controlled what she wore. He wouldn't allow her to wear shorter dresses. He wouldn't allow her to drink out in public without him being there. He was just very controlling in everything that she did, every aspect of her life. Even when she was at work, he was trying to control who she went with. And if she did go see a man alone, he would have somebody basically following her. At the end, he turns into a mean drunk. He gets drunk because she leaves him, and she comes back, and he's very, very verbally abusive to her, and she leaves, and it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. The second book in this picks up, and like I said, I gave it 2.5 stars. I despised the book. It was a lot of Ava saying no, and then he would give her sense fucks. So this entire series had a ridiculous amount of repetitive sex in it. And good sex is like awesome, and I love hot smut in books, but it was just over the top, repetitive, overdone sex that was just, it kind of got boring, and I started to skim through the sex scenes because once you've read like 20 of them, you have read enough. And so it was kind of repetitive in that form. But what I really didn't like is that he would give her sense fucks. So basically, anytime she said no, he would fuck her into submission, and to the point where she said yes. And she would agree with everything that he said. I really didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that he would not take the word no for no. So that was just not, I wasn't a fan of that. He had a secretary, and she it was very obvious that she was out to get him. She wanted him, and she was trying to get Ava out of the picture, and Ava refused to confront. There was no communication, or really bad miscommunication, over and over and over again in this book, to the point where it was just so frustrating that by the second book, I was just throwing my hands up and saying, I'm done. I did continue on with the series. I will say that this is a lot similar to After to me in the writing style. They break up and come back together again so many times. But it was with an even more annoying heroine, because she was so obsessed with having sex with him that she just could not say no. Also, like, every time that she would use a cuss word, he would be like, watch your mouth. Every time. Like, it was on every other page. That got really, really freaking annoying to me. The fourth book did get better, a lot better. The controlling aspect got better. We understood why he was the way he was. It didn't make up for the way he was acting, though. Overall, if you are really, really into 50 Shades, you might enjoy this book. But if you're not really a fan of After, or you're not a fan of, like, possessive to the point of abusive type of guys, this isn't for you. While reading this Man series, I was also listening on audiobook to The Morgan Brothers by Lauren Rowe. I kind of needed something a little cinnamon roll, a little sugar sweet, while I was reading this book that was really frustrating me. And so I read Mr. Bodyguard. This is about Xander, who is kind of the adopted Morgan brother, and Aloha, who is very famous, kind of a Disney girl who turns into a pop singer. I would say kind of, sort of, she reminded me of like a Selena Gomez type of a character. And he is her bodyguard. It is his first time having a job like this. So Xander is best friends with Keen, who is a male stripper, and he has this very eccentric, very out there personality. He is the utmost cinnamon roll. There is very little drama or angst in this book. He goes on tour with her and falls in love with her. He falls in love with every girl he meets, but there's just something about Aloha, and they get together, and it is very, very cute. Like I said, no drama, no angst, no cheating. There's just literally nothing in here. It is just sugar sweet romance. And the other audiobook I was listening to while I was reading the This Man series is the 5th and final book in Lauren Rowe. This is Rockstar. I gave this one 5 stars. It is one of the only 5-star books out of Lauren Rowe that I've found. I really enjoyed this. It does have a cinnamon roll type of hero, but he has a little bit of a bad boy aspect. He is the rock star of the family. He's up and coming with the 22 Goats, which is this band that he's been having going on. He was local to the Seattle scene, and he became very popular. And he is now going on tour, opening up for a much bigger rock star band. And the day before he goes on tour, he meets this girl. They have an amazing one night together where he like falls in love with her during the first night. But this is kind of insta love done right, because he meets her, but she finds out that he is going on tour, and she's like, well, you know, I'm not going to mess with that. I know what it's like when people go on tour. You go do your rock star thing, and if you're still thinking about me, or if you still want to get together after you're done with your tour, then come find me. And so he goes on tour, he does his rock star thing, he sleeps around, he does whatever he wants to do, but he can't get this girl out of his head. And it is their last night of tour, and he's been hanging out with this band who he's been opening up for, and they've become really good friends. They're kind of like mentors to him. And the girl of his dreams walks in, and it ends up being the ex-girlfriend of the band member that he's been playing with and has been like a brother to him. And so he has to decide, does he go after the girl or does he stay true to his friend? Drama ensues. It is really cute. So after that, I went on to a motorcycle club romance kick, and I read What Doesn't Destroy Us by M.N. Forgy. This was a new to me author. The first book I gave 4 stars. It is about Danny and Shadow. This is a duet. And so Danny has lived with a single mom her whole life. Her mom's always been very secretive to her. And whenever she's 18, she hears this loud commotion in the house. Her mom comes in and has she's abused. And so they run away, and she says, we're going to go to your father. He'll be able to protect us. And she's never heard of her father. She has no idea who it is. It ends up being a motorcycle club president's daughter. He has no idea that he even has a kid, and he is shocked when he finds out. Shadow is kind of I don't know if it's vice president, or anyway, he's high up in the motorcycle club, and she sees him, and it's almost love at first sight. She kind of connects with him, and so her father has Shadow kind of take her under his wing while she is in their group, and Shadow ends up falling for her, and they have this kind of forbidden romance for a little while. I didn't necessarily believe in the romance so much because he did not trust her, and he continued to not trust her. The first book ends in a cliffhanger. The second book is called The Scars That Define Us, and this one picks up after the cliffhanger. Once again, I didn't believe their love story because something happens in this cliffhanger that makes Shadow believe that Danny is being a liar, that she is actually giving away club information to somebody that's really important, and he is afraid that she's going to bring the club down. But because he doesn't trust her, he immediately jumps in and has another girl in his bed. She ends up coming back, and she finds him like that. And he continues to not trust her over and over and over throughout this book, and it really frustrated me, but it was still really good. I enjoyed the motorcycle club aspect of it. I felt that it was believable. If you really like motorcycle club romances, I would suggest that you check this one out. I gave both the first and second book 4 stars each. The next book that I have to talk about is Cinder and Ella. This is by Kelly Oram. And once again, this is another book that I have never read this author before. I gave this book 4 stars. I'm going to tell you now that this is a YA book. I did not realize this whenever I got it. I was just looking on Audible Escapes, and because I love Cinderella retellings, I decided to jump on it. Did not realize that this was not new adult and that it was YA. But, you know, just be forewarned, there's no sexy times in this book at all. So this is about Brian and Ella, and Brian has an online name of Cinder. He has been talking with this girl who has a blog. She's kind of nerdy, and they are all about this certain book that is out and super popular. It's going to be turned into a movie, and so she's always doing blog posts about it. He's always kind of arguing or talking to her back and forth, and they have these discussions about it. It's really cute, but it's basically like every girl's fantasy at one time, where a teenage girl who's a little nerdy ends up becoming best friend pen pals with some guy online, and come to find out he ends up being a famous actor, whatever, gorgeous dude, and they fall happily ever after. Of course, there is some really painful parts in this. At the beginning of the book, she goes on to a vacation with her mom. It's just her and her mom who live together, and they get in an accident. Her mother passes away, and she has burns to like 70% of her body, and she ends up, she's 18 years old. It's her 18th birthday when this happened, but her father petitioned the courts and requested that she come and live with them because of her condition. She does not want to live with her father. Her father abandoned her and now has a new wife and kids, and she just is not very happy with that whole situation. But she has Cinder, who ends up being the guy who does not care about the 70% of her body. It turns into a really sweet, sugary sweet romance. But like I said, it's YA. The next book that I read was Wraith. This is by Romy Hart, and this was another new to me author. This was another motorcycle romance book. I was just kind of in a motorcycle romance kick, like I said. This book I gave 2 stars. There's a lot of things that I like about motorcycle romances, but what I don't like is insta-love in my motorcycle romances. Like, that's just, it doesn't go together. So this entire book takes place during 1 week. I'm not kidding. The entire book. So from start to finish, from her meeting this guy, him basically like kidnapping her to fight her brother. She is like the rival MC's president's sister, and he's really bad news. And so this guy, what's his name, Wraith, is trying to get revenge on this guy, and so he kidnaps his sister. And this entire book takes place during a week in which they sleep together, immediately fall in love with each other, can't sleep without each other, to them falling in love, to talk of marriage by the end of the book. The whole thing takes place in 1 week. 2 stars. I did not like it at all. Enough said. The next book that I picked up is Misfit. This is by R. Holmes. This was one that I just found on Kindle Unlimited. It is also kind of a motorcycle club romance. It is a novella. It was so well done. I gave it 4.5 stars. Misfit is an assassin. He kind of works with different MCs and different organizations to take down bad guys. He ends up finding a girl who has been beaten to the point of death, and he gets her to the hospital, and he has vowed that he is going to avenge her. She still lives, but she is in really, really bad shape. He ends up taking her under his wing and protecting her. It is just really, really cute. I really enjoyed this. It is setting up for a new MC romance that's coming out very soon. Highly recommend it. I enjoy the writing style so much. Really good book. The next book I have to talk about is Aftermath. This is by Denise Grover Swink. This is a new adult romance set in college. It is about a girl who is a math major. She is incredibly smart, and the guy who is a soccer player, he is kind of the big man on campus. He is failing in math, and so she has to tutor him. And it is typical new adult. This is an older book. It was on my list to read, and it was cute, but nothing memorable or anything like major. There is some anxiety rep in this book that I enjoyed. I wouldn't say that it was the absolute best representation I've ever seen. Other than that, it was okay, but nothing memorable. 3.5 stars. The next book I have to talk about is Love Unexpected by QB Tyler. This is also a new to me author, and one that I totally plan on reading more of. This is a taboo, forbidden romance about a stepfather and daughter. And so this is about Dominic and Stasia. Stasia is a biracial character, and Dominic was her teacher first, and at 10 years old she fell in love with him, and then a year later her mother meets him and marries him. So she has had this crush on him all this time, and the love kind of turned to hate as she turned into a teenager. She kind of resented him because she thought she loved him first, so she gives him a lot of hell. Her mom ends up dying in a very bad car accident, and they have a new normal that kind of starts to take place. She is over the age of 18. She just graduated high school, and it is their romance. It did feel a little wrong, but it was so good. It was so forbidden and taboo and just angsty. The only complaint that I have is that it wasn't quite as long as I wanted it to be. There was some things in the book that she wrapped up in the epilogue, but I just wish that it went into more depth. I wanted to know how the grandparents reacted. I wanted to know more about certain characters and how they took their relationship, and it just wasn't quite in there. So I gave it 4 stars just because I felt like I needed a little more. The next book I have to talk about is Our Way. This is by T.L. Swan. This is about Nathan and Eliza. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. First of all, I gave this book the lower half of 3 stars. That was me being a little generous, I feel like. I want to first say that I respect the author for trying to put a pansexual main hero in the story. So Nathan has always identified as being gay because he fell in love with his first relationship, which was with another boy when he was 17 years old. And so he's always slept with men, and he has a best friend who is Eliza. They met. They were both new to the town in San Francisco. She's a nurse. He is a doctor, and she's very young when they first meet. I think she's like 21. But they get together in the lunchroom, and they have been best friends for like 10 years. It goes on now that's kind of like the prologue about what happened in the book. So after 10 years, he sees her in a bikini and happens to get a hard on. And he freaks the hell out because that's never happened before. He's only been attracted to men that he knows of. And he thinks it's just maybe a one time, but it happens again and then again. And he is freaking out. He goes to see a therapist, which I enjoyed about this book, was the fact that he did go to therapy and try to figure out what is going on with him. And they bring up the idea of being pansexual. They think that the therapist thinks that he has been in love with his best friend this whole time, and that his body is just now starting to recognize this and get with the program. So I enjoy the pansexual aspect of it. I don't know how well it's done because I'm not pansexual myself, so I can't speak to the realistic aspects. I did have a couple of problems with it myself, but that's just me as a straight person, so I really can't say for sure. I just felt like it could have been done a little bit better. My problem with this book specifically is cheating. There is cheating in this book, and they have been best friends for 10 years, but they have no communication skills with each other. And they live together. They're like as best friends. Like they sleep in the same bed. He is always around her, and yet they don't, as a relationship, they don't know how to communicate. And the first sign of trouble, he goes off and cheats on her. She wrote him a letter basically because she has insecurities as his straight best friend for 10 years, and now all of a sudden they're sleeping together. Of course, she's going to have some nervousness about the fact that he may go back to a man, and what's going to happen to their relationship. Like, it's all very realistic, her feelings, but he doesn't seem to really understand or respect her feelings. It's all about him, and he gets, in my opinion, very narcissistic and very selfish with her. And she wrote him a letter and moved out of the house, and he refused to read it. And instead of just like being a man and growing up, he waits like a year to read it, 9 months, 8 months, something like that. And the whole time that he's doing that, like, he's slept around with somebody. But here's my problem with this book. Not only is there cheating, but the main character just like, it's not really resolved. Like, there's no groveling, there's no apology for it. There is one thing I want to read, and this kind of determined the 3-star review for me. Okay, so this is at 85%. This is when he is talking about the cheating, and she says, "How many women? None that count." "Nathan," I snap, "why would you want to know that?" "Because I need to know. I want to have all the facts in front of me." "Why?" "I just do." His brows furrow as if an internal risk assessment. 4. Not as bad as I imagined. "Who are they?" "What the fuck does it matter?" he whispers angrily. It goes on a little bit, and he finally answers her. He says, "I have no idea. They work at a strip club." I sit forward in disgust. "You have sex with prostitutes?" I whisper. "You would rather have me spend the night sweet-talking someone?" he gasped as if outraged. It was a physical urge I had to scratch, so I took care of it in the most mechanical way that I knew how. "So you went to the strip club on 4 occasions and twice." I frown. "You did the 4 girls twice?" He looks around. "Keep your fucking voice down," he whispers. "I went to the strip club twice and had a threesome with 2 different girls both times." My mouth falls open and I sit back. "Wow, go you." I stare at him for a moment, and it's official. I must be tapped. A normal woman would be outraged, but this information has me strangely mollified. He wasn't intimate with anybody. It was just sex. So she was okay with the fact that he slept around on her with 4 different girls because they were prostitutes, and it wasn't love, it was just sex. And he's sitting there saying, "I just did it in the most mechanical way and knew how because I had an itch to scratch." Has the dude never heard of his own fucking hand? He doesn't have to sleep with somebody just because he has an urge to scratch. Use your goddamn hand. Anyway, this book really, really frustrated me. I did not enjoy it at all. The next book that I have to talk about is Bound by Honor. This is by Cora Riley. This was also a new to me author. This is a mafia romance. It is about Luca and Aria. I gave this book 3.5 stars. I also did not really enjoy this. This also had cheating in it. It was a very descriptive visual idea of cheating. She ends up watching him cheat on her a couple of days after they're married. Of course, this is an arranged marriage, so it wasn't like really a love connection. But still, they did just get married 2 days before he cheats on her. I don't enjoy cheating in my books at all. Also, Aria is 15 whenever she has to get engaged to him. She's 18 when it happens. She has never been with a man before. And I just really didn't enjoy this book. I didn't feel the love between the characters. I don't know if mafia is really for me. This was my first bout into mafia romances. I didn't enjoy this one at all. It just wasn't for me. I'm not saying it wasn't good. It just wasn't for me. The next 2 books that I have to talk about is a duet, and that is Depraved and Delivered by Eva Charles. This was also a new to me author, and I really enjoyed this one. I gave both of the books 4 stars each. This is about JD and Gabrielle. JD is the president's son, newly elected, and his father is not a good man, so it does have some political aspects of it. It is a second chance romance. There is a little bit of cheating in the past that happened, and that is revisited some, but there is no like cheating in the present or anything like that. It was really good. This is a suspenseful romance, so there is a lot that happens. It's very action-packed. And it was sad at moments. It was really good. There was some BDSM scenes. There's a lot of them actually in this book that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the series overall. Like I said, I gave them both 4 stars each. That's all the books that I read this last month. Let me know which was your favorite book that you've read in the last 30 days in the comments below. I will talk to you very soon.